current reality is not going to allow us to fully dive into the seasonality. But how can we evolve ourselves and the systems around us and the systems that we engage in to become slowly over time, over years, perhaps even over generations, move closer to that old way in a new way, an evolution?
We are learning to trust the ever-evolving rhythms of nature.
We are committed to embracing our shadow within community
and reclaiming our sovereignty.
We do this together.
That is the way.
What's good, y'all? This is Elden here at the Elemental Movement podcast, joined by my brother, Matt Matucci. So we're coming together today to talk about winter, and as we're working with seasonal energies as a guiding force in our lives. What I'd love to start off with is actually, and this is an invitation to anybody listening as well, but we're going to bring it to life through dialogue, is just to take a moment and feel into winter. And when you feel into winter, I'm curious what comes up. What do you associate with winter in your own experience?
So, Eldon, what do you experience or feel when you feel into wintertime?
I like what you did there. I feel into warmth. It feels like cozy to me. And also, like, I also feel into birth. Like, I'm a winter baby. I feel into darkness and richness. Feels like a cozy couch, a cozy blanket, and a good book. I also feel into stiffness, resistance, racing mind. And then I come back to acceptance, slowness, and sleepiness.
Kind of hit it all there.
Yeah. What about you?
A lot of that I can also agree with. And you said that word stiffness, and it's been interesting because as I've gotten older, that feeling becomes more and more pervasive in wintertime. And I have to respect the stiffness that the climate, the colder climate, imparts on my body, and there's an acceptance in, like, oh, I can't do as much as I can do in the summertime in terms of like athletic pursuits. I'm someone who, like yourself, likes to push my body further sometimes. And it's funny that we're talking today because yesterday I was, about to entertain some house guests in the evening, and I was trying to squeeze in a quick workout in my living room, and I was doing handstand push-ups in my living room, and I'm just cleaning up and doing those, and then I pulled a muscle. I was trying to do a little too much. That's something I probably could have gotten away with in the summertime. That's my guess, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not as much to go around in the winter. You have to be more protective of your energy, more discerning of it. Yeah, it's a time of slowness and stillness and reflection. That's what I feel into. You can't have that reflection without the slowness and stillness. And how lovely is that we get to have a time to do that?
Yeah, I mean, like, my cheeky and like obtuse side immediately goes, well, yeah, if we have the space to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that's what nature is asking us to do.
Right.
That's
right.
my point. Right.
No, I get it. Yeah.
I don't know. And thank you for clarifying.
When I give voice to it, just because like that voice is so prevalent in me, and I associate that voice with like a programming, a belief system, ideals that I have inherited and that I perceive we have inherited that remove my connection to seasonality as being valid. Right? Because if I'm being honest, like I'm a hibernator. Like, I'll just fucking hang out at home and like drink warm things and eat warm things and like cozy up under a blanket. At the heart of it, like, I'm totally content. But as I've gotten older, that has been less and less like acceptable to me to do based on what I perceive myself to need to do. And one of the things that I feel really passionate about as we're going into these talks on seasonality and supporting ourselves and others and grounding in the seasonality, I want to make sure that both things are like we're working to create balance between both things.
Between
Because
both worlds.
right, because the reality is like we actually don't have, most of us don't have the ability to just remove ourselves in that hibernation state and still maintain like what we need to do to be able to literally survive.
Yeah, got to pay the bills.
Right, got to pay the bills, got to take care of the kid, like kids got to go, my kids got to go to school. It's like there's all of these things like we have to show up for. And so it's not about, for me at least, it's not about creating like the like quote unquote the ideal, but finding that balance where there's the relationship with the season that's being honored in the ways that it can be honored.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, yeah,
I'd
go.
like to speak to something that comes up
Mhm.
there too. I love that we're not going for the ideal, right? Because right, one ideal, the ideal in the like capitalist programming world that we all live in, where we have to pay our bills and we have to be productive, and that is totally one side. And then there's another side, which is this one where we're more closer to nature and seasonality. And these are really, especially in the wintertime, like diametrically opposed between one another. If there's ever a season where they're more in opposition, it's winter, at
Mhm.
least from the way I see it. It could be argued, others, but
Feels true enough.
yeah, true enough. And and I believe like you're so right. It's like, okay, we need to find the balance. And I also feel like there's this extra call of, okay, our current reality is not going to allow us to fully dive into the seasonality, but how can we evolve ourselves and the systems around us and the systems that we engage in to become slowly over time, over years, over seasons, perhaps even over generations, move closer to that old way in a new way, an evolution.
Well put. I'm like 100% on board with that. And so in the name, and I feel like setting up that stage of like this change, like we're looking for sustainable change,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It does and it doesn't, right? It's like we're setting up the stage for incremental, deeper change. And
Mm-hmm.
at the heart of it, what I'm hoping for is through this work that we're doing and others are doing, like we can create systems change. Maybe my daughter, like in her generation or her children's generation, like the work hours during the winter are shorter.
Yeah.
Like maybe we start timing things off of sun and rise and sunset rather than off of
Clock
a
time.
clock, a mechanical
Yeah.
clock, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that would be a game changer. So with that all like there, Matt, I'd love to now go into, if you're open, a little bit of the Daoist lineage that you have and what you've studied through that lens, because I really feel like there is a lot of wisdom intact within that system around
Yeah.
seasonality and being able to land in that.
Yeah. Being immersed in Chinese medicine and some Taoist traditions connected to Chinese medicine for 6+ years and living it and breathing it and working with it and treating patients now. Wintertime is a time connected with the element of water, and water and the energy of winter. It's all about the directionality of that energy. Energy is always moving and it's going downward in the wintertime, right? In the fall, it contracts, goes inward. And then in the wintertime, it goes downward, which is much like water works with gravity. It always is going downward. And it can be looked at in that way of like that percolation of water, like rain and snow comes down onto the ground, and it percolates into the ground and fills up the reserves, the aquifers. That's that energetic signature, and that's what nature is asking us to do, is to slow down, to let the energy percolate downwards and fill our reserves, fill our stores, so that when springtime comes around, we're ready to burst forth and explode, reborn, rebirth life. And so it's much like wintertime is that seed versus springtime, which is the sprout. And so the seed has like so much potential. It's just filled with potential. Like in that seed, an entire oak tree can grow. Like how insane is that? Like these 100-year-old oak trees can grow from a single seed, and then a lot of other inputs, of course. But with that, it's like there needs to be a time for that seed to be a seed and to
Mhm.
just sit and to prepare for the right time to open up and start to continue. If that seed opens up too soon, it's going to die.
Mhm.
If anyone's ever done a garden and you seed, you sprout your seeds and you plant them and the frost hits, they none of them make it unless it's a specially designed plant for that sort of climate. So that's one piece of wintertime. As far as our bodies, wintertime and water element is about the bladder and the kidneys. And the kidneys store an incredible amount of energy for us. And they also are that which in Western medicine and in Chinese medicine, we see it as that which filters the blood. And you also see it as the blood being water. And the kidneys in Chinese medicine move the water throughout the body. They regulate, or not even regulate, they govern the water passages. And the bladder houses the reserves in Chinese medicine. And this is where there's a translation issue between Chinese medicine and Western medicine, because when I speak about the bladder and the kidneys, it's not just the physical organs of the bladder and the kidneys, it's also the energetic signatures, the energetic pathways of these systems. So it's not a perfect translation. The emotional signature of wintertime and water is fear, according to Daoist traditions. And fear, I can't think of, personally for me, a scarier thing than being out in a sea of water by myself, perhaps in darkness. That sounds pretty terrifying for me. And that fear of like, and the power of water. Water has this capability of having immense power. When you see a massive waterfall or a crashing wave, I don't know if there's anything more powerful than that. Just looking out in the ocean, where you are right now, Pacifica, Half Moon Bay, wintertime,
Mhm.
tremendous power. And that's the
Mhm.
spirit. That's the spirit of the kidneys of the wintertime of the water in Chinese medicine. It's willpower, the jur.
Okay, so I love this. I would love to bring that to life in a little bit different way. What does it look like when there is an imbalance in those energetic pathways? What are some of the ways that can show up? And then also, what does it look like when those are being prioritized and like worked
Mm.
with in a good way?
Yeah, I like that question. And unfortunately, it can be a troublesome question because anything can come from anything. So, you have an imbalance in your water, and there can be any host of physical ailments that can happen from that, right? You could get eczema from that. But then you could also get kidney issues or kidney stones, right? So I'm not going to go from the physical standpoint because
Yeah.
that's not where we can go with it. Where we can go with it is we can talk about what that imbalance manifests in a human being in terms of their emotional capabilities and maybe they're inappropriate emotions, where
Mm.
you can see that imbalance manifest. And really that happens is there's an incredible fear or lack thereof fear. And that can happen in inappropriate ways, right? Fear is a very natural and necessary emotion. And it's important that we feel fear when we're in a dangerous situation. But if we don't feel fear in a dangerous situation, that's putting ourselves at immense risk. I've seen people that have debilitating, like basically death sentence cancers, and they're just not even afraid. It's like, how are you not afraid right now? Like that is when you need to be afraid. And then there's also seeing people that have immense fear over very small things and they're paralyzed. And it's like frozen water in that moment. It can't move and everything gets stuck, gummed up. That's a place where we can see an imbalance in
Mm-hmm.
that water. But
So,
to move your question to a place of more like winter time,
mhm.
if we're not honoring winter, we're going to get injured. We're going to drain ourselves out in a way that we might not even recognize we do until months go by, and come spring or summer we're crashing. And because our minds, our simple little monkey brains, don't really do well with long periods of, like, we don't draw conclusions over long periods of time. If I crash in April, I'm not going to think of, oh, you know why I'm crashing right now, why I threw my back out, why I'm having fatigue issues, why I'm having brain fog, or why I'm depressed. It's because I didn't spend this winter being relaxed. Like, we don't think that way. No one draws conclusions like that. We draw conclusions of, what have I done in the last couple of weeks? What have I done this week? What have I done in the last couple of days? That's normally how people operate. Now, as we cultivate some awareness, and with that cultivation, we might draw those conclusions. But I would say most people that I experience, and speaking for myself, at least until recently, I would draw conclusions in that short term.
Mhm.
And I think it's not an uncommon experience.
I 100% agree with that. And I also want to just name it, that actually feels like having awareness of these longer cycles of time and their impact is like part of what we're up to right now.
Yes,
So it's like, okay, so we're in wintertime. I mean, we're almost in wintertime as we're recording this, at least for me, like a few weeks out.
I'm in wintertime right now,
Yeah.
for sure, being up in
Yeah.
Washington.
We're probably about a week out over here.
Yeah.
So this is the time where it's time to be going inward. It's time to be nurturing the body, the bloodstream, taking time to rest and bring energy back in, right? That yin within yin, right? The energetic signature.
Yeah.
So it's like really quiet. And within that, for me, like one of the, like this fear piece, I've been chewing on this, right? Because like we've been talking about this, and one of the things that comes up for me in terms of fear is actually doing shadow work. And when I say shadow work, I want to be really clear with what I mean by that. I'm looking at the things that I can't see. And for me, I often need help with that, doing like guided journeys into the body, somatic work, where I'm looking for those stuck points, those places where my fear hides, where it either like is speaking from and overwhelming me, and or, as you said, like is just suppressed, right? It's something that I haven't taken the time to go look at. And so I'm going to go look at that and free up the stuck energy in that place so that it's no longer hiding. And like wintertime feels like the perfect time to go and do that for me. And I'm actually like, I'm noticing in my own system how, as we're moving into winter, that is just like, it's emerging, which is one of the coolest things for me is, I've been tracking the seasons for a few years now, like with diligence, and like each year it evolves. And like to be in this season right now, I'm like, the last week I've been exhausted. And like I probably have like viruses or whatever like coming in towards me. I've got a school age child. But it's just been like, oh, I'm tired. Like the days are shorter, the energy's going down. And like rather than trying to fight it, I'm just letting it be there. The workouts get shorter, the activities get slower, and really just letting that be okay. And as I've been doing that, I'm finding the resistance inside of myself that then gets to get worked with. And as I do that, I get more settled in the energetic signature of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. And what's so amazing about when you slow down and you shorten the workouts, you shorten the productivity, you stop doing nearly as much because the season is asking you to, your system is asking you to. It creates space. And in that space, there's a chance to look and have the ability to maybe see a glimpse of that shadow, of that stuff deep inside of you. Last week, I've actually had some things start to come out, and I had stuff that I could not see. I had shadow material that was coming to the surface now. It's starting to bubble up. I can't even see it. but it's there and it's becoming more present. And the incredible thing is that when you surround yourself with people who are more sensitive, more aware of those things that are not readily seen, they can see it before you can sometimes. And so this is where that working with a group of people who are all on similar paths, walking in this way that's more sensitive, more aware and perceptive of these things, these seasonal changes, as well as just deeper things, they can bring awareness for you to that stuff and help you along the way too. So this is where our work with a group of men can be incredibly valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited about creating this container because it's a group container. It's not just individual work.
To quote a good friend of mine, I can't see my own crazy.
Exactly.
I mean, so just to kind of piggyback on that, and it's kind of my closing thought for now. 2 days ago, Isla's been working on this new modality that she's combining all of her things into, somatic timeline healing, we're calling it. And I'm like helping her with some messaging. And she's like, I'm like asking her questions. She's like, do you want to just experience it? I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, let's do it. This is what we had talked, you and I, Matt, like right before this happened the other day. And I'm like, yeah, like, let's do it. And so she like leads me through the somatic process. And like the next thing you know, I'm having the most visceral grief experience I have ever had outside of like the specific time of a grieving. Like, like there's been death, like it comes up. This was like deep, old, ancestral, like bubbling up from my gut that I didn't even know was there. I had no awareness of it being there. That is shadow work. There's zero awareness of it being there. Other people help you find it. It gets pulled up. And then as a result of that, like I felt all of this energy in my system get liberated. It was like I didn't know there was this stuck point. And then it's like I get this surge of movement through my system. And then I have like a different place to settle into. Well, as we're closing out for today, I want to just give this invitation to anybody listening to this. If you are interested, well, first off, if you're a man, because we're opening a container specifically for men, and you're interested in working with seasonality as an energetic that can be a guiding force and a uplifting force in your life, I really encourage you to check out Initiate, which is our program that is upcoming. We'll be going into this stuff together over time so that we can really integrate it.
Till next time.
If you're curious about our 9-month Initiate program, check out the link in the description.
When you're ready to begin your journey, visit elementalmovement.life. We'll see you there.